Welcome. We are the HypnoChix, and tonight is Intimate Conversations, E&P Relationship Strategies, where we will be discussing the E&P concept that we have learned through HMI College, which is one of our favorite subjects that we learned. And we're also, if you didn't know, we are both certified hypnotherapists and we are life coaches and also relationship coaches. Mm-hmm. So during this live, we thought it would be interesting to bring some examples to the table. These may be extreme cases, but we will be using some public figures to kind of give you a look into an example of what an emotional or a physical behavior is. Again, these are extreme cases, so not everybody is going to be like the examples that we have set for tonight, but we thought they were very interesting examples, and I'm sure those of you who are watching know them very well. And if you have any questions, or if you would like any advice, or if anything resonates with you throughout this live, we do have an interactive chat, and both myself and Joyce will be keeping an eye on the chat. So if any of you want to jump in and ask any questions or would like to even just a comment, you're more than welcome. We do, we would appreciate if everybody plays nice, and that's pretty much our rules. It's just, be courteous and kind to one another. And we will get to your
question. I hate to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. Can you fix the audio on your thing? Because it sounds like you're whispering.
Really?
Yeah, you're really quiet.
Oh my goodness gracious. All right, let me see. Hold on.
Because sometimes Zoom will automatically adjust your audio. Because we've had to fix that a couple times before when my stuff was too quiet.
Well, now that I have this box around here, it's not giving me those options, oddly.
Okay, that's well, weird. Maybe just speak closer to the mic.
So, is this better?
Yes, a lot.
Like way up on the mic. That's crazy. I don't know why it doesn't. Yeah, I know it does automatically adjust, but I will bring my microphone closer if that helps. How's that?
It's a lot better.
Okay. All right. All right. So Joyce has created a PowerPoint type of presentation to help us to learn the E&P concept. Again, E&P is it pretty much
emotional and physical relationship strategies.
Right. And so this will help to understand yourself and your partners and any relationships you may have had in your life. Mm-hmm. So did you want to go ahead and we'll start the slides?
Yeah, I would just, before we start with that, I would like to say that even though that this is geared mostly for romantic relationships, as you become more familiar with it, you'll start to see it with everybody. And it can relate to even your relationships with people at work or people with your family. You'll start to tell who is who once you really get a good understanding of it. And the best part about it is once you understand, then you can modify how you handle things to influence the relationship in a positive way.
Absolutely. Good point. Yes. And are we going into depths of how they have developed these behaviors, or will that be maybe the next?
We can. We have 2 hours to kill. We can go in as depth as we want to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just roll with it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I just realized that I'm not recording. Do you want me to record?
Oh, shoot. Doesn't it? I think it records automatically.
It does not automatically. I have to push the button right here.
Really?
Yeah. We were just live, but it didn't record anything.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. Okay. Do you want to start over?
Sure.
Okay. Sure. I'm sorry, girl.
It's okay. All right.
Wait.
Do you
Okay,
want
ready?
me to do the
One,
little
two, three.
song thingy again too?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're recording.
Hold on.
Oh, you don't have to do this part, I don't think. I think we'll be okay.
Okay. All right. Welcome. We are the HypnoChix. I'm Victoria Holtz, and this is Joyce Morales. And we are both hypnotherapists, certified hypnotherapists at that, and we are life coaches and relationship coaches. And tonight is Intimate Conversations, where we will be discussing the E&P concept, where it focuses on relationship strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So, we will also be introducing tonight a couple of public figures to help give a better understanding of the E&P concept. However, these are extreme cases, so these may not resonate quite with you, but we thought these were interesting cases and we would like to, shine some light on it.
Mm-hmm. They're really good for, I guess when you're looking at extremes, it's easier to draw the picture
Yeah.
of what one is versus the other. But all of us are kind of a mixture of both. We're going to have both of ends, as far as it goes. We both have a little bit of both. That sounds
Right.
really redundant, but you get what I'm going with it.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about it. There is a scale that
Mm-hmm.
we use to determine like how much of an emotional you are and how much of a physical you are, but we do have both traits, but we are more of one than the other, like Joyce was saying. So we will take this nice and slow, and because it can be kind of confusing, but once it clicks, it's gonna change your perspective of yourself, of your partners, and people around you, because you're going to understand yourself better, understand people better, and you're going to be able to respond better to your partners and possibly people around you, maybe in the work area, your family, your friends, and you'll have a better understanding and you'll have a better response as to why they behave the way they do or why you behave the way you do. So, like Joyce was saying earlier, this is not just for relationships, but it is primarily used for relationships. But this can be used in all sorts of situations with people. So, this is an interactive chat. So, if you jump in and if you have any questions, maybe something resonates with you and you would like to, get some advice on something, you're more than welcome to put it in the chat. Myself and Joyce will be watching the chat. So if you do have any questions, we're more than happy to answer them the best we can. Mm-hmm. And pretty much, we're going to begin by viewing a slideshow that Joyce has created.
It's just a little one. It's not too many, so don't feel bad. Like don't be afraid it's death by PowerPoint. It's a little one to just to get the point across.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's gonna help break it down a little bit and pull out some key concepts, so it gives you a better understanding of what we're talking about. So and it'll keep us on track too, so we're not rambling. So is there anything else you would like to include in that?
No, I think that's good, because once we start getting into it, it will make a lot more sense.
Right. Yeah. And maybe these extreme cases, some of us, I know I have, not to that extent with public figures, but I know in past relationships, I have been in certain situations where they did behave in that certain way. So maybe that will resonate with you a little bit with these cases, but not maybe to that extent, but to a certain point, to a certain degree, it will resonate. So with all means, let's move on, I guess, to the slideshow. So again, we are discussing the E&P Relationship Strategies. So,
and if you are interested, there is a book about this. We can put the link in the chat. for people that are interested in the book. Um, and there is a questionnaire available that we can send out to people or send a link to. If you're not
Right.
sure after watching this which one you are, then we can help you figure it out.
Yes. And we can also help you if there are any, maybe you're having difficulties in your relationship, or maybe you would like to bring the spice back into your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here to help. So, all right. Are you ready to move on to the next one?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right. So here's Dr. John Kappas. So he is the founder of HMI, is where myself and Joyce had
Mm-hmm.
attended. That's Hypnosis Motivation Institute. That's where we got certified to become hypnotherapist. And Dr. John Kappas is also the one who came up with the E&P concept. Do
Mm-hmm.
you want to go and elaborate more on that?
Yeah,
Or
he's unfortunately he's passed on already, but part of his EMP and the college are both parts of his legacy because he really wanted to be able to help couples stay together if that's what they wanted for themselves, because he was alarmed by the number of divorces that were out there, and he um, was looking at the type of help that was out there, and it just didn't seem to be all that helpful. It
Mhm,
was supposed to be, but it seemed like a lot of the marriage and family counseling and stuff just kind of became mediators for softening the divorce, and instead of actually helping couples stay together. So, um, as a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist, he developed his own theory, which is really based off of subconscious behaviorism,
mhm,
because the subconscious is where all of our automatic behaviors live. So those are harder to change unless you really get into like breaking patterns and hypnotherapy and like really digging deep with yourself. But in, besides that, if you understand what patterns are, because behaviors almost always happen in a pattern, then you can understand yourself, and you can understand or anticipate how your partner's going to act in a
mhm,
way that is more beneficial, because it seemed
mhm.
like a lot of people were going into relationships and getting frustrated because we naturally treat other people the way we want to be treated, not understanding that the other person, no matter how much similar they seem to us in the beginning, they still have their own way of handling stuff.
Right.
So sometimes treating people the way we want to be treated is actually not the right answer.
Hmm. Yes. Yep. So that's Dr. John Kappas, and I think it was because the divorce rates were so alarming. I mean, even today,
Yeah.
it's like you could be married for like a week or less, and you're like, okay, I'm done. That was fun. So, like Joyce was saying, it's like he was looking for a way to keep relationships together. You
Mm.
know, and in a subconscious way, because you have to learn your patterns. So, and this is why he came up with the concept, which is mind blowing, because once you really get into the E&P concept, it's like the book was written about you. It's like, how did you know that?
You will definitely see yourself in it for sure. Um,
Hmm.
it was kind of mind blowing the first time I read it, because I was like, why did I not know any of this stuff sooner?
Oh
Because
my
any of
gosh.
the relationships that I had in the past that didn't work out, um, those behaviors and the patterns were exactly in the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's,
there's so many relationship coaches out there, and marriage and family therapists and gurus and whatever, that are constantly giving different relationship advice. You might go to your auntie or your mom or your uncles to be like, well, I don't understand why such and such happens, and everybody has an opinion about how you're supposed to do stuff.
mhm.
um and then when you do it, it doesn't help. you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reason why is because it's just based off their opinion, where he actually took the time and he, over his career, he saved thousands and thousands of marriages,
Yeah.
which is
I
mind
really
blowing.
wish I
Yeah.
had this knowledge, like you said, like, back when I started getting into relationships, because relationships can be a mind freak, it's like it changes you. It really changes who you are, your whole life. I mean, if you think about it, like how much has changed, and there's lessons that you learned. I mean, positive or negative, it's just very life changing when you get into these relationships. And just, yeah, having this knowledge, if I would have had it, I probably would not have been in so many toxic relationships,
Hmm.
because I would have been able to see the red flags. Like, oh, okay, yeah, this is not good, so I'm gonna leave. But now I know, and now that I know what to watch out for. I mean, I'm married, but still, I can't apply it to my marriage now. But this works for people too who are single and trying to look
Yes.
for a potential partner. And it's like, well, why isn't she or he calling me back? And you're constantly calling them, and they're like, you're not understanding what's going on the other end of that situation. And
Hmm.
it you
And
know
that it actually gets really frustrating for people, is not understanding. So if you read it, or you go through these episodes with us as we're explaining it,
Mhm.
and you get that better understanding, you're like, oh, I know what's happening. And then you're not
Mhm.
racking your brain and trying to, getting sick and or emotional and getting like distraught about what's happening, because you understand that, oh, that's their pattern.
Mhm.
um and okay, so then if I do this, it'll affect it that way. And then also too, you could just decide that if that person is just too much work,
Right.
but at least you have the knowledge how
Mhm.
to move forward in order to work on it if you choose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is Dr. John Kappas. And are you ready to move on to the next
Yes.
slide?
Hmm.
All right. So, purpose: 1, increase understanding; 2, aid in predicting behaviors; and 3, shaping positive outcomes.
Hmm.
Those are the 3 purposes of why we are going to explain the E&P concept. And that's the main 3 reasons why John Kappas has developed this modality.
Hmm.
So it's to increase understanding, aid in predicting behaviors, and shaping positive outcomes.
Right.
So, like we were talking about, increasing the understanding is very important. That's increasing the understanding of our own behaviors and other behaviors, and predicting behaviors in ourselves and
Hmm.
others, and then shaping positive outcomes. So we'll be able to respond better to these patterns, instead of getting frustrated and creating conflict, or feeling rejected, or um, doing something that we really don't want to do to ruin the relationship. Instead, we can respond better, and by shaping the positive, and by creating a positive outcome with a better response, a healthier response.
Right. Well, yeah, because how many times have you gone to a partner and were trying to get a need met or problem solve something, and they did not take it the way that you meant it at all?
All the time. Yeah, absolutely. The
Right. And it's
communication
because
never come
and
across
we
clear.
do handle things differently.
Yes. Yeah.
So understanding that we're going to, the type of people that you attract according to the type of person that you are. So did you want to go to the next slide? And we can kind
Sure.
of talk about that a little bit.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So, influencing factors: 1 is family of origin and culture;
Hmm.
2 is response to rejection; 3, relationship to physical body; And 4 is patterns in romantic relationships.
Right. And the part of the reason why culture is in here is that when we are starting to explain the this spectrum of where you're going to be on, there's certain cultures that are more reserved,
Mhm.
and there's other cultures where um they tend to just be more loud and outgoing. Like Greek culture in general is one that's kind of um you know loud, and we're a loud family. We do all a bunch of stuff together, and it's a big thing. But then you may have somebody who's maybe in an Asian culture who's um expected to kind of go along to get along and not cause a big scene, maybe a little bit more passive. So, even though you're going to be on this spectrum somewhere, there is cultural influences that can affect how much you appear to be
Mhm.
one or the other.
Right.
If that'll make more sense as we go along.
Right. And then the response to rejection. So we do respond differently to rejection. Um, an emo or emotional will respond differently to rejection than a physical behavioral will respond to rejection.
Mm-hmm.
So you may notice in relationships when you're not giving, and we'll get further into this, but the physical or just a partner, you may notice you may not be giving them as much attention as you had been in the beginning of the relationship, and now they're feeling abandoned, and they're feeling as though you don't like them anymore or have feelings for them anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
they're maybe, what's going on, what's wrong with you and I,
Mm-hmm.
what's going, they start getting very stressed,
Needy.
needy.
To the more reserved person, they're going to seem needy.
Yeah.
And especially when they're coming at you with like, well, what's wrong with our relationship? And we're like, what are you talking about? Well,
Yeah, and
there's
they
nothing
don't even
wrong.
go
And I'm
to
like,
the
well, how
length of
come you're not
even
doing this like you used to do? And then they're like, uh because we're secure now, like we
right.
know what we are.
Yeah.
I'm not chasing you anymore because we're committed to each other. Now I'm providing for you, you know. So
Yes. Yeah,
so
and the physical may even go to the length of thinking you're cheating on them. Like, are you cheating on me? Are you with somebody else? Are you
yeah.
talking to somebody else? What's going on? You're not touching me. You're not having sex with me every night like we used to, or 3 times
Yeah.
a day or whatever it was. And and for the emotional, we're sitting there, the emotionals will sit there and be like, they'll shut down, and they want to process all of this information. Like, I thought we were cool, because like Joyce was saying, it's like we're secure now. Why do we need to continue, like, having all this physical, you know, uh, interaction? We're okay now. We could just every few days, let's just be physical. I have work to do. I got stuff to do.
Yeah,
I
well,
can't.
also because, I don't really want to bring another uh you know, another book or another model into it, but if we were going to use love languages
Mhm.
and maybe we could just for reference, but it's not, love languages aren't necessarily referred to in this model, but there is a parallel because like an emotional, which we'll talk about it like when we get to the sides about the behaviors of each, an emotional is more likely to for acts of service. They want to
Yeah.
take care of you. They want to make sure that your needs are met. So their stuff is like, you know what? They worked all day. Let me make dinner.
Mhm.
Let me take out the trash for you. Do you have new tires on your car? Kind of stuff like that, where somebody
Mhm.
who is a physical is going to like their love languages would be more physical touch.
Yeah.
So they want to be like hugging on you and,
Hmm.
having like romantic and intimate moments with you. And we're like, I'm tired. I just did all this stuff for you. I worked for you all day so I could give you a house. And so I could
Exactly.
buy you new tires. And, so we're like, I don't want to be held right now. Or they'll, especially maybe this might be more of an issue now that people are working from home, that an emotional could be working from the house and is on the computer and they're doing whatever. Um, so their mind and their body is all in for work
Yes.
because we do not switch gears very quickly.
Right.
And then a physical is like, oh, my baby's here. Let me go hug on him or hug on her. And then they start grabbing on you when you're trying to concentrate on your job. And then you get pissed because your
Right.
brain isn't even on physical contact. It's about getting the shit done so you can have your dinner on time,
Yeah.
and it's so that you can, once I get my work done, then we can hang out and watch TV together or just have quality time, whatever. Um,
Right.
so
Right.
we just go about it differently, but the little nuances start to add up
Yep.
and they
Because
can create
like a
some big
rejection.
conflicts if we
Hmm.
don't know how to address them when they first start to happen. And then it can escalate into like a trauma stage where then you're at risk of maybe breaking up. Um,
Hmm.
it doesn't mean you can't save it when it's in a trauma stage, you could, but it's better to know, right?
Yeah. That way you can have an understanding like why is she pushing me away, or why is he pushing me away when all I want to do is hug up on him or her. And you know this way you're like, oh, okay, they need their space for a little bit, they'll come to me when they're ready, instead of
Yeah.
feeling
And it
rejected.
it is kind of reassuring once you accept the model for what it is and you can see the behavior patterns in your partner, because if you are physical and you feel like um rejected or pushed away because your partner is like, I need to concentrate on work right now, I need you to leave me alone, and you feel shitty about it. you
Mhm.
know
Right.
and
Yeah.
this, knowing this model and applying it to your life, you can be like, okay, well, it's not personal, they didn't mean it as an attack to me,
Hmm.
it's just now's not the right time for them.
Hmm.
And then your
Right.
emotional will actually feel more respected by you
Hmm.
and then will more likely come forward. So it actually really helps you get what you want in the relationship when you know how to treat your partner properly.
Right. And it also, because with physicals, it's nothing wrong with being a physical, and there's nothing wrong with being an emotional. But with physicals, like we're saying, it's like they're always wanting to have that physical interaction, and they always want that 100% attention on them. And the thing is, it's like you kind of have to give your partner who is this emotional, give them a chance to come to you and be physical, give them that
Mm-hmm.
chance, because sometimes we don't, you know they don't get the opportunity. The emotionals don't get that opportunity because you know a lot of physicals may complain like um she never or he never, comes to me and says, hey, you want to rub my back, you want me to rub your back, or hey, you want some intimate time. And it's like, but maybe you're not giving them that opportunity to come forward and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well,
When you
okay, if you don't give them that
instigate
time
it.
to come
There you go.
forward
That's the word.
and you're always chasing them, you're eventually going to feel like crap about it because you're like, they never want me, I have to initiate everything.
Yeah. Thank you. That's what's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Initiate. Yeah.
So, but and if you
Yes.
do give them some emotionals, depending on who they are, they might need a day or two, maybe three, maybe if they're really stressed out, maybe longer to
Hmm.
kind of re-regulate and come back. But if you give them that opportunity, and then you enjoy it, right? And maybe praise them for it, so it's encouraging and reassuring to them that they did the right thing to by you. Um,
Hmm.
then they'll offer the behavior more often. But if an emotional's nature is kind of to run away from things that stress them out,
Mm-hmm.
like, because if we're basically the model is based off of your fight or flight reflexes, and a physical is more likely to fight, and an emotional is more likely to
Flight.
flee,
Yeah.
flight.
Fight.
So
Flee.
when an emotional gets stressed out, they shut down, they run away.
Yeah.
So the harder you push and chase them, the more likely they're going to shut down and feel like they need to assert their boundaries for more space. Um, so if you were just patient,
Mm-hmm.
and physicals, there's nothing wrong with you, but if you see that your emotional is doing that, then give them some space
Yeah.
and let them have a chance to come back to you. And then what they will, as long as you don't push them away too far, then they will come back. So, which
Exactly.
we'll get into that stuff. Do you want to go into the next slides, because we have
Yeah. Oh, do you want to hit up on relationship to physical body? We didn't really touch on that. Well, basically, the physical
well,
is
that's in the slides that we're going to touch on, though,
it?
because
Oh, okay. All right.
because these influencing factors, I kind of expanded on them on the following slides.
Oh, okay, cool. Never
So
mind. Moving along. Okay. All right. So next we have the scale.
which we've already been talking about it for a while now,
Yeah.
but we do attract our equal opposite. So, like, for an example, I'm a high emotional.
And I am
So I'm
as
not
well.
all the way at the end, but I'm maybe like right under the O, the first O under emotional. So I would say maybe I'm like 80%. So chances
Yeah.
are
I'm up there. I'm up there too.
the people I tend to attract are also high physicals, around
Yes.
80, 75, 80% is what I normally tend to attract.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also why a lot of times I end up not being in the relationship, because they freak me out right away.
Yes.
Because they come on too strong. Hold on, I have
Yes,
to
they
adjust how I'm
do.
sitting. They come on too strong, and I'm like, no, like right
Yeah.
off the bat, just no, it's not happening.
Right. And it's
Uh,
so, it's so common that when people very first get into a relationship, and me and Joyce always say this when we're talking about relationships, um, you know, because we've gone through it ourselves, of course, but we think this partner of ours is, oh, he or she is just like me. We listen to the same music. We enjoy the
mm,
same foods. We enjoy this. I mean, he's like my soulmate. He's my twin. It's just, we're so connected and we are absolutely alike. And it's like, well, sorry to
well,
burst your bubbles, but they're your complete
well, rapport
opposite.
is really important for building relationships. And part of building rapport is likeness, but liking the same stuff, enjoying, having coming from the same culture, maybe, because you can bond over that, liking the same music, the same TV shows, all that stuff. Those are great, but they don't mean that you're going to handle stuff the same.
Right. You may have the same interest,
Yes,
but your behavior is going to be
totally
the
different.
opposite. Your responses are going to be the opposite. So that's why we thought this was so interesting, because
Yeah.
it's very, very true. And once you actually get into this, you'll see it. You'll see it unfold before your eyes. Like, oh, you're right, because she does respond this way, and I don't respond that way, or he
Right.
responds that way, and I don't respond that way. So you'll see it when
Yeah.
as
And
time.
there's sometimes, like, in your dating history, if you're a physical, you might not always date emotionals. Sometimes you might be like, there, I dated an emotional, and then I was on a rebound, so I dated a physical.
Hmm.
Um,
But those relationships don't last very
that
long.
you're right, they don't last because um they start to feel very platonic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
you can get two emotionals together. Also, they tend to work more than two physicals do. But then it's depending on the situation. Like if an emotional is going to cheat, it's probably with another emotional, and
Mm-hmm.
that can be hot and heavy because they know that they're not going to be taking each other seriously and they're cool with it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Right.
Yeah.
But if it was two emotionals who decided they wanted to be in a long-term marriage or a long-term relationship, it might just be like being with your best friend. And also there would be a lot of times
Right.
like, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do
Yes.
you want
That's
to
what I was
do?
gonna say. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody will be able to make a decision right then and there. They're like, what do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? Oh, I don't. You pick. No, you pick. It would be an ongoing, like, just
Yeah.
make,
And
because we
eventually
don't
they
want,
would polarize a little bit, so one would start to be a little bit more physical than the other.
yeah.
Um, I have to be honest, just because I tend to attract such high physicals, I kind of feel like I prefer to date another person who is also an emotional, but just like a little bit less of an emotional than me.
Yeah.
But out of my
Yeah.
history, that's only been like one out
Yeah.
of the rest of them. You
Because
know?
you do want someone to kind of initiate or not make the decisions, but just be a little more stern, I guess, than, because we're emotionals. We don't want any conflict. So it's like, oh, if I pick this, they might not like it. So, but the physical is like, let's just go to Jack in the Box or McDonald's. Let's just
Yeah,
go.
they
It's
are
like,
more
oh, okay,
spontaneous.
sounds good.
But
Yeah.
regardless of even where we are on the spectrum, how we interact with our partner, there's a give a little bit, about like 10% either direction. Um,
Mhm. Yes.
that you can kind of budge a little bit, either by choosing to act out your subdominance, which would be like the opposite um traits, or
Hmm.
if the person is freaking you out and it just pushes you way to the
Yeah.
end. You know?
Yes. Yes. So there can be too high of I don't think anybody's ever scored a 100, right? That's what we've been taught. Like nobody's been a 100% emotional or 100%
Yeah,
physical.
no, there's I mean, maybe if somebody's like has a really bad personality disorder, but I
Yeah.
think even then they might only be like a 90, because once you start getting past like 70, the the intensity of those personality traits begins to like multiply exponentially.
Right.
So it's very I don't think there's anybody that's 100% of anything.
Right. Unless maybe an emotional 100%, maybe possibly would be a nun, right? I
That
don't
doesn't
know.
mean that they would, just
No.
because they're not in a sexual relationship, and they're high emotional, doesn't mean that they wouldn't still have um any of those other feelings, because I have friends that are monks and nuns, and they're very open about what monastic life is like, and they
Hmm.
still have their moments, like they get upset with the other monastics, with the other people that are in the that are with them, or sometimes they still have lust and stuff that they're working on, um, because basically, being monks and nuns, they've just chosen to battle their subconscious.
Hmm.
The
Okay.
things that we do through hypnotherapy, that they've
Yeah.
chosen to confront um, through prayer instead of
Okay.
hypnotherapy. But
Well,
it's
I would be curious to see what a 100% emotional or a 100% physical would be like.
I don't think that they would be able to function in society.
Probably not, but it'd be interesting to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I imagine that
If
person would
anybody
probably
scores a
flirt a
100
lot.
on the quiz, let us know.
Yeah, I imagine it has to be really difficult on them, because that's almost impossible to be able to maintain any kind of relationship with them. I mean,
Maybe
for
a
them to
hermit,
maintain
you
a
know?
relationship with anybody else,
Maybe
you know?
a hermit would be 100% emotional, and a physical would be like a
No, not even, because
no,
they, well, no, because like,
no.
okay, like my patron saint,
I don't
right?
know.
Saint Seraphim of Sarov, he was a hermit for a good part of his monastic life, and he
Hmm.
lived up in the mountains, but he had a best friend that was a bear. So you're
Well,
still
that's,
interacting with others. Like an emotional is more
but you're not
introverted.
interacting with people. It's a bear.
Yeah,
I
but he
mean, I know it's a
did.
living thing, but
Right, but then
Let's
he
like
would
close
come
this stuff
down
off
and
to
he would
society.
have services and do prayers and whatever with the people in the church and the parish and whatever. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't know that anybody, even like if they choose a life where they do that, doesn't necessarily mean that they are actually an emotional. A
Well,
physical
I
could
don't
just
know.
as easily do it. I think that they would struggle with it more. I think a monastic life would be easier for an emotional because we want to rationalize our behavior anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, we have a lower sex drive.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
it doesn't mean that we're never interested in it, but sometimes we're more interested in um, the intellectual, mental, and emotional part
Mm-hmm.
of connecting with somebody more than we are with the physical.
Yeah, that makes
Like, we
sense.
would really like to be on the same page with you,
Right.
you
Well,
know?
I don't know. I guess it'll be a mystery what 100% emotional and physical would be
Yeah. I
until
imagine would be very distressing for whoever it is.
it probably would be. I would imagine so. All
Yeah.
right, you ready to go to the next slide?
Yeah, please.
Okay. All right. So now we're talking about priorities. So right now we're talking about the emotionals priorities. So number 1 is career and financial security.
Yes.
2 is hobbies and friends. 3 is relationship and family, and 4 is sex. So this is in order their priorities. So their number 1 priority is career and financial security. 2 is hobbies and friends. 3 is relationship and family, and 4 is sex.
Right.
So
So when you're physical and this doesn't match your priorities, you're going to get really upset.
right.
But
I mean, they have the
and
same priorities. It's just they're in a whole their
they're not
priorities
ranked the
are
same though.
not in the same orders as theirs.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they want the same things, just not as bad. Or they
Right.
want
Yeah.
different, it's a different order.
It's in a different
So
order.
this is where we were
Definitely.
talking about, when an emotional, you're dating an emotional, um, we are like maybe more affectionate during the dating phase before you've locked it in.
Mm-hmm.
Before you've gotten a commitment because we're goal oriented.
Right.
So we're
Yeah.
like, so we want the security and we're like, okay, cool. Now that we're in a committed relationship, I can start making sure that we're getting enough money. I'm going to work on my career so I can be able to pay for a house for us or make sure that you can pay your car note too. If I know that you're struggling financially, I want to make sure that I'm compensating for that. I'm a provider kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and so like really their love languages would be acts of service and providing.
Right. Yeah. And a good probably clue, like when you're first starting out with someone and you ask them, well, you know, what are you interested in? Or what is your goal in life, or what are you looking for in a partner? And if they say, well, I'm really goal oriented, I'm really striving to become professional in my business, or if they're talking more work related stuff, and then or if the other person might be like, well, I want someone who's always going to be there for me. I want to make sure we have you know um just spending time with each other, and you could tell the difference of what
Yeah.
their
Like
priorities are.
quality time. Actually, I
Yeah.
would say that I think an emotional, they also want to do quality time with you. But it may
Yes.
be a little bit easier for some people if they think about it as extroverts versus introverts, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
An emotional is more introverted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the way that we give things to people is different because an introverted person is more, uh, slightly more withdrawn,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So like hobbies, that a lot of the hobbies and stuff is really things that they could do by themselves.
Yeah.
You know, it could be drawing, painting, um, uh, I don't know, like some people like making sand table game stuff,
Yeah. Or
or
woodwork,
video
stuff like that.
games,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just things that you could do by yourself. Or even sometimes they're hobbies. A lot of times, even like with us, it borders on almost work. Because
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like my work is a hobby,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. True.
you know, because
Yeah.
I'm constantly coming up with new stuff to do. And somebody was like, you know, look at me
Yeah.
like, dude, do you ever take a break? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I go to sleep.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does sleep or going to the bathroom, does that count as a break?
Yeah.
The thing is, though, with emotionals and physicals, or if you want to look at them as introverts and extroverts, however it makes more sense, um, it works together. It creates a balance. So that's what you want to look for is your opposite. You know how they say opposites attract, and that's for a reason. It's because the emotional for the physical is giving the physical something maybe they're lacking in, and vice versa. The emotional maybe,
Yeah.
or wait, the
They
physical
are
maybe giving
complementary.
the,
We
yeah, very
fill a
complimentary.
void that in the other person, or we're like, you know, to
Yes,
almost like to the two halves together make a whole kind of thing.
right. Kind of like if you are an introvert and you see someone at the party and they're outgoing, they're like, hey, how's everyone doing? And if you're the introvert or the emotional, you're sitting back there like, wow, I wish I was that brave to just walk around and greet everybody even though I don't even know them. And the physical or the extroverts looking at this person like, oh,
They're
they're
so
mysterious.
mysterious.
They're so mysterious. I want to get to know more about them. So it's like, it's that attraction and you're filling the void. So
Yeah.
whatever you're lacking in or they're lacking in, you provide that for one another. So it works. But yeah. So number 3 is relationship and family. So
And
that doesn't,
unfortunately, last for the physicals, the
or
emotional
emotionals.
priority sex is last.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if these other 3 are not going so well, guess what happens to the sex?
You
They
ain't
start
getting
shutting
none.
down because they're so worried about all the other top 3.
Right.
That sex really starts to not be even on the table.
Right. In order to receive number 4, you got to make sure number 1, 2, and 3 is good to go, or else you ain't getting no nookie.
Yeah, because we'll talk about this in a second when we get to. Actually, can you switch to the next part and
Yep.
I'll address it.
Mm-hmm.
So, where is it? About the body. Okay, well, we were going to talk about their relationship to the body, but an emotional's behavior, again, their first priority is business and
Mm-hmm.
providing. They're introverted and they prefer to socialize one-on-one, which is why we seem so mysterious, because we really are okay actually with being by ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
when there's a lot of people around, it just kind of makes us uncomfortable, especially when it's a lot of people who are very touchy,
Right.
and you're like,
It'd
you
be
can stop
overwhelming.
touching me now.
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So, but we tend to be affectionate in private and when we're in the mood. So just because we're alone doesn't mean that we're fair game. We need to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that our head is in the game,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if we're
Our
not even
head is
thinking
in the
about
game.
sex and you come up and start getting all over us, we're going to be like, ew, what the hell are you doing?
It's very overwhelming. It's a very overwhelming feeling. It's very
It feels
invasive.
violating.
Yeah, it does. I mean, not that that's the intention,
No.
but that's the way we receive it. It's like, hold on, shit, let me breathe.
Yes,
me,
that's true. Yeah.
Let me walk all the way in the house before you start doing that.
Yeah,
So,
like talk me into it or something. Like put something interesting on I can like unwind to or something. Like I can't just go like that.
Yeah, well, emotionals are very head driven, and our minds, the emotionals' minds, are just going and going and going and going. And if you can get them to just calm their mind by maybe sitting down and just, you don't even have to say anything, and just maybe let them vent it out, and like, oh, today was, at work, it was stressful, this, that, and the other, or just sitting there and having an intellectual conversation, and then just letting them relax, and then, because that's important too, is just letting them relax, because when your mind or the emotional's mind relaxes and everything else follows, it's like then they relax everywhere else, and then they're like, oh, I think I'm in the mood. So it's giving them that
and
time.
believe it or not, that little act of like listening, or you see that we're stressed out, so just go take care of something for us, because like I said, the love languages thing for us a lot of times is acts of service, or even just quality time. So if you could just be present with us without pushing us for something, no, without wanting something, because we always feel like somebody wants something from us, because we're constantly providing, so we assume that if somebody comes to you, they want something.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know that
sometimes
that's necessarily untrue, but it's definitely our perspective that somebody's coming to us because they want something from us. So, and then sometimes we're so worn out from work or whatever, or even just from stress, from all the things that are happening, that we don't feel like there's any more of us to give. And I need now a little bit of time to recover. Because if I don't fill up my own cup, then I won't have anything else to give, and I'll get sick and crash, maybe have to, have a nervous breakdown or have to go to the hospital because I've pushed myself so far that I literally don't have anything extra to give now. So, have mercy on us a little bit,
Yeah. And,
so we were going to say too, which I thought was on the slide, but wasn't, about our relationship with our body.
Yeah.
We, for the most part, feel our emotions and stuff in our head. And then, emotions, especially intense expressed emotions like anger and being any kind of like really sad, you like devastated, any of those really intense emotions, don't necessarily feel safe to us. So we want to take time to deal with them rationally so that we can make the best decision. But because we compartmentalize kind of our emotions like that, we don't always know how we feel right away. And you can ask us, I'm like, well, what are you thinking? How do you feel? I'm like, you know what? I don't know. And when we say it, we actually mean that. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I need some time to think about it. And
it seems like they take it as like, you don't want to tell me. Yeah. Or they think, oh, you don't want to tell me. Why don't you want to tell me? And it's like, because I really don't know. Well, you got to know, because
when I figure it out, I'll tell you.
Yeah. It's because we're disconnected from our physical body.
We have
emotionals are more head logical
ego sensation.
Yeah.
So, and it could even be like with physical pain, that even we don't feel that as well, or it, and this can be very frustrating. This part for physical is that even if we're not mentally and emotionally in the mood for sex, then we may never achieve climax.
Right. Yeah.
And then
definitely.
the physical takes that as being rejected, like, oh, I'm not good enough. Or they might start like scapegoating you. They might start blaming you. Why?
Right.
Why the emotional is not good enough, like, or whatever.
Well, that's when the emotional comes in and they fake the orgasm because they're people pleasers. They're like, oh, that was great.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Just like give us a little time, like help us like boot the brain up, like help us shift gears a little bit. And it'll go better for you, I promise.
Yeah.
And
another interesting thing of the connection and disconnection of the body is when the emotional stresses out, it's more of an emotional stressing, and it's a mental kind of stress. When the physical stresses out, they can actually physically feel it in their body, like with stomach pains, nausea, chest pain and stuff like that, like you can physically feel it, opposed to the emotional where it's like the mind is just going and going and going and going.
Yeah.
And
I will say, I do think emotionals get body syndromes more. Well,
yes.
I think both get body syndromes, but I think because an emotional doesn't mean to, but we repress our emotions or compartmentalize
Hmm.
them. And then
Hmm.
because we're like, well, I still have to work. I don't have time to
Right.
deal with this right now. That sometimes those things get trapped in our body, and
Yes.
we can get like tension headaches, or like I have had a knot in my lower back for probably like the last 6 months because I'm
Yeah.
worried about providing for my family kind of thing, like trying to make sure all of our needs are met. And because
Hmm.
because Chloe's gonna be born next month.
Oh my goodness, I know it's so soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean
got
it's
a knot.
great, but those are things that are on my mind. I'm thinking about providing. And
Right.
so the knot in the lower back is it has to do with providing.
Yeah, and financial responsibility. And
Yeah.
I've been having for years and years. I have a knot that's on my left side, um, on my scapula. So I think that's like carrying a heavy load,
Yeah.
you know. So a feminine
Like carrying the world on your shoulders is kind of what
possible
that
energy.
area
That's
is. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So
but that's a whole nother
that's a
discussion,
whole
body
different
syndromes.
discussion. Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole nother
But
topic. But
yeah, a lot of times our body syndromes will be more tension related. Um,
yes.
but for a physical, they may have like, um,
Oh, they'll get ulcers and
yeah,
like
yeah,
IBS issues, even diverticulitis. Like it will manifest into an
yeah.
actual
Some really
illness.
tense jaw clenching. I've seen that before,
Oh
like
yeah,
all of this and stuff, like so bad.
yeah,
What is it
TMJ,
called when they're
TMJ disorder,
huh?
TMJ disorder, temporal
Yeah.
mandibular joint disorder. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that could happen. Chronic migraines.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's what's good about learning too about this concept or modality, because if you are a physical or emotional, then you'll learn how to control that stressor and
Yeah.
hopefully
This
learn how to vent it out.
yeah, this model does not well, hey, it's time for me to go to bed.
Oh, good night.
um, this model does
Yes.
not teach you
Night
about the body
night.
syndromes, but if you notice that that's something that's bothering you, then I would suggest that you um, talk to us and schedule a session. So wait,
Yeah.
before you switch to the next one,
Oh, I didn't mean
um,
to. I didn't mean to
no,
move
it's
it. So,
okay because I think we do need to kind of move on. But um, here it says that an emotional speaks literally, but hears inferentially. So a lot of times, if um, you're talking to an emotional, they might ask you more questions about what you said, or
mm-hmm.
it may seem like they took what you said the wrong way if they don't ask the questions because they're listening to the tone and your body language and all these other things, trying to infer what you really meant. Um, and I know it says an emotional cheats because they're either bored or because they're bored and underappreciated. Um, it doesn't. Not all emotionals will cheat, just like not all physicals will cheat. If it's a person that isn't inclined to cheat, they will. If it's a person who believes it's wrong and won't cheat, they won't do it. But
Mm-hmm.
if they do cheat, the reason why they cheat is because the physical has been telling them that you're not this enough, you're not that enough, you're not paying enough attention to me. And basically, the physical has been putting such a heavy burden um, on physical attention that it has
Yes.
neglected the mental and emotional needs of your emotional person.
Mm-hmm.
And so they feel like this person isn't stimulating me mentally anymore.
Right.
I can't talk to them. We can't do this. We can't do that. And then they feel like the other person might have been telling them, I want you to go to the gym. I want you to dye your hair. I want you to be prettier. Would you dress up more for me? And that's really not who we are. So
Right.
then we're being told like we infer that means that we're not good enough for you. And then
Mm-hmm.
we feel like bad about it, we feel inadequate, and then
Mm-hmm.
just want to feel better.
Right.
So if an emotional cheats, they cheat to feel better about themselves
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
what's going on in the relationship has made them either feel bored or underappreciated, really kind of actually both. Um,
Yep.
but and then like we addressed earlier, when they feel rejected or or anything, then they'll retreat or they'll just give up. So
Mm-hmm.
um, and physicals will handle that much differently.
Right. Yeah. So when the emotional walks away, when you want to resolve an issue right then and there, let them have that time and space and let them come back to you when they're ready to
Mhm.
respond. Let them process it. It's not that they're being mean. It's not like they're not wanting to fix whatever the issue is. It's the fact that they're trying to process how to deliver, the solution in a way that is not going to cause more of a problem, or how are
Right.
they
They
going to
actually
articulate their
usually
feelings.
want to be fair about it,
Yeah.
you know,
But try also
equitable and
trying
everything.
to, yeah, and
Um,
they're trying to figure out too how they're going to articulate their emotions, like what's going on with them,
yeah,
like
because we're
how
so
do I
disconnected
express
from them
that?
anyway.
Yes, so it's like they need that time, so they'd be like, okay, well, how am I feeling about this, and
Yeah.
how can I tell this, person and whatnot. So give them time. Don't chase after them. They'll be like, we need to talk about this now, right now. Give them time.
Yeah.
If you really care about this person and you want it to make it work, give them time. And for the emotionals, take the time, process it, and then make sure you do come back to the physical that is wanting to resolve the issue and let them know what's going on, because communication overall is a key component in relationships. So don't just, shut down and stay shut down if you want it to work, and not tell them anything and just be like, well, they'll probably forget about tomorrow. It's like they're not going to forget about tomorrow. Trust me, it'll come back up.
Yeah.
So just,
Yeah, I think, if it's a healthy emotional, they will come back and talk to you about it if you
yeah.
give them enough space. Um,
Yes.
I was telling you about this the other day, but in one of my past relationships, we were in an argument and I needed a break because it was too intense. And
Mm-hmm.
I have there's some physical abuse in my past and in my childhood. So
Right.
when there's like really intense emotions, I don't feel safe. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I understand what you said. I need to go think about it. And I went up into the closet. It, it was a walk-in closet, okay, and I was folding clothes and putting them away so I could think about how I was going to handle stuff and what's the best course of action, and I was working off my nervous energy by doing a chore,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I don't want to pop off on anybody because I feel like that's not me respecting the other person by talking
Right.
to them that way. Um and I don't want to be talked to that way. So I was trying to treat them the way I wanted to be treated by taking a break, calming down, and then coming back to discuss it logically. Anyway, that person thought that I was running away from them and
Mm-hmm.
accused me of hiding in the closet from them. And I'm
Right.
like, I wasn't balled up in the corner crying, you know,
Yeah.
like I was just folding clothes and putting
Mm-hmm.
them away, and trying to calm down and like figure about what we were going to do. So like perspective is everything really,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Definitely. Yeah.
So okay,
Yep.
let's go to the next one
Okay.
because this has a big part to do with why we handle things the way that we do, because an emotional's biggest fear is to be seen as inadequate.
Right.
And we're also afraid of conflict and confrontation. So I mean, we'll do it if you force us to.
Oh,
We're
we'll
trapped
blow
in the
up
corner.
because we compartmentalize everything, and we will blow up if we are pressed too much. Like, we need to resolve it now. We got to resolve it now, and then it's like we just explode because it's like you didn't let us process it. So all this block comes out of us and anger. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you want to resolve it now.
Yeah, because it was violating our boundary and we didn't feel safe, and you were pressing us for an answer right now. One of my least favorite things that a physical will do sometimes is demand an answer. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, they'll present something, and instead of letting you go figure it out and come back, they'll be like, what do you want me to do? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to
Yes.
figure it out together if we could talk about it calmly, but that isn't what was happening. You know, they're coming forward because a physical
Mhm.
comes forward. They're in their fight mode
Right.
when they're stressed out. So they're like, I need you to tell me what to do.
Yep.
You know, or it's like, you need to do this, or you need to tell me. And I was
Yeah.
like, why are you not involved in this problem solving? Like, how come I have to have all the
Exactly.
answers? You know?
Right.
Um, so, you know, putting an emotional on the spot like that is really going to backfire, because either they're going to run away, or if they feel like they're trapped and there's nowhere else for them to go, they're going to lose their shit and they'll pop off.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
Yeah.
then you problem still not solved.
No, in fact, it probably just escalated into a bigger problem because now you're arguing because the emotional feels like they're backed up into the wall, and you know they're saying things probably that's not very nice. Like, well, you shouldn't have been such an asshole, you know, or something. It's like, what do you mean I'm an
Yeah.
asshole? You know, and so now you got to be like, I'm sorry, and then the fizz is already feeling rejected because you called them an asshole. You know, it's just a big
Yeah.
mess.
Oh, and it takes everything so literal. So that if you got
Yes.
pushed to that point where you popped off and then you said some stuff out of being angry, and you didn't necessarily mean it, but it doesn't matter because you said it, and now they're taking it literally.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because they take it literally, they take it personal. They're like, you meant that. And I'm like, I didn't mean it. I wanted you to leave me the fuck alone. Sorry
Yeah.
for the F bomb. I wanted you to leave me alone because I told you already I needed some space and you were not respecting me.
Exactly. Yeah. So
So,
then our fight mode turns on, and we didn't get to process all the all the information and extract it logically. And so now we're like speaking out of anger because we're feeling trapped. So, but yeah. And then
yeah, because in
feeling or
that
being
moment, it's survival mode.
right. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially with people, and I'm not just saying women, men have gone through it too, like that have been through traumatic situations or abusive situations where they feel backed into a corner, and they're being like, well, we have a problem with da 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 da, and they're like, oh shit, this is triggering me. So it's like, back off. So
because I would really like to believe that I'm a nice person, but I will admit that there's been times when I've felt backed in a corner that I said some pretty heinous shit, and I wish I could take it back, but
yeah,
it was preventable.
it was, yeah, but at
If
the
we could
time
have
it's like,
disengaged and just calmed down and then talked about it later, everything could have been cool.
right, if they allowed you to.
Yeah.
Because if you ask them, like, well, can we talk about this later? Because I really would like to, have that time to think about what you're asking me. To be like, you know what? Fine, screw it. You don't want to talk about it? Go. Just go. Like you always do. You just want to avoid the problem, and it's like, and that's why it's good for both partners to learn about, this modality, this concept, because that way you both can understand each other better and prevent from these escalations happening. Instead, be like, okay, take that time, figure out what you need to do and whatever, instead of being like, really? Okay. Because like the physical always thinks they're being abandoned, rejected, and not taken in consideration when you do that. So
So and the way we are accidentally triggering each other's fears, and by doing that, that's why all these situations occur where it's escalating and turning into something so drastic. And it didn't need to be, if you just understood that the other person is an emotional or the other person is physical. They don't handle shit the same way that I am, or the way that I do. And it's not bad, it's just different. And if we can accept that, we can deal with the person appropriately. Ooh, my light changed. So okay, on that note, let's go take a look at the physicals.
Okay. So physical's priorities. So as you can see, the order is the opposite of the physical or the emotional's priorities. Instead of number one being career and business, it's relationship and sex. And then number two is family, three is hobbies and friends, and four is career and financial security.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the priorities in the order for the physical.
Right. And so here's one thing that can seem deceptive about a physical is that if they're not in a relationship and they're having a successful career, an emotional would be like, oh, they have a great career there. That's their, they have their shit together, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we're looking for. And then like for the physical, the career was just, it might be their priority while they're single.
Right.
But as soon as they get into the relationship, that other person kind of takes precedence over their career. And then you're like,
yes. I had seen that a few times where I had seen a boss of mine. He was actually the owner, and he was so work oriented, was like every day in the office making sure everything was in order. And as soon as he was single at the time, and then as soon as he got into a relationship, he never came to the office, hardly ever seen him, could never get a hold of him. He was gone. He went down that rabbit hole. He was, so yeah. But when they broke up, he was back in the office again and whatnot. So anyway, but yes, so you can see how it switches like that. So
yeah, so like when you're an emotional and being career oriented, like we tend to be, we see somebody who's putting their career first, and we're like, ooh, they have the same priorities of me as me, but we're deceiving ourselves in that case, because if they're physical, it's going to change.
yes.
And it's not bad or wrong, it's just different. So
Yeah.
let's go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think it's just primarily just finding a balance. So
yeah, that's the big part of it.
yeah.
And so with the physicals, primary behaviors, their intimate relationships are number one.
Mm-hmm.
And second to that is their family. And but they're more extroverted and they prefer to socialize in groups. They would be more likely to be the life of the party, or an emotional would be the person who is like there because their friend dragged them there.
Yeah.
Because another extrovert or made them go. Um but we're just kind of maybe like uncomfortable with it anyway. But a physical will express affection very openly, like public displays of affection, you know, um, they're not really embarrassed by it at all. Where an emotional is more likely to be like, there's
Like, oh my
people
God,
watching.
everybody's watching.
Don't do
like,
that. There's somebody looking.
Yeah, stop smacking my ass in front of everyone. My goodness, they're gonna think I'm a hoochie mama or something.
Yeah, and then because a physical is so much more attached to their body, that
Yeah.
they are going to ask for reassurance and compliments. They want to know that they look nice. They want to know that you love them. They need to know that you thought about them today. Because
Yes.
you as an emotional going to work to provide for your family does not register to them that you thought about them.
Yeah. I'm sure we all got that phone call from a significant other where, did you miss me today? And you're like, yeah. Totally. I mean, maybe you did.
Okay, I've had it, really? And I was like, not yet. I was busy.
You haven't given me time to miss you.
I'm like, I don't have time to think about that yet. I'm trying to make money for us so we can have pay off this car or whatever.
Or they don't give you time to miss them because they're constantly either calling or they're hanging on you.
Yeah. And
but
it could be they want more, you to be more romantic, and it's not wrong for them to have those needs. But they tend to think just because we are different that we are rejecting them because we don't handle things the same way as they do. And,
Right.
kind of to be fair to a physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
That during the initial dating phase, an emotional does act more like a physical than they normally are because they're
Right.
trying to secure it. Because, like I said, we're goal oriented, we're working towards a goal, we want to secure the relationship. And then once you get a commitment out of us, then we're like, okay, back to work. And you're like, hey, what happened? Where's all the flowers? Where's
I
the
thought we
fancy
sealed the
dinner?
deal.
Yeah, like I don't know, like, you know, just little things, like the you didn't smack me on my butt today. What happened? Or
Yeah.
whatever. Just like little things, like there was no pat or like no peck on your cheek today on the way to work. And you're like, well, oh my God, he doesn't love me anymore. And I was like, no, he's probably just worried about his meeting that he has,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Right. Yeah.
So really trying to not take those things personal. But the hard part for a physical is that they react spontaneously.
Yes.
Instead of taking time to go think about it, they're just like, bam, on it. They need a solution right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's way too intense for us. We can't do it.
Or they just want to do something right then and there, and the emotional is like, well, yeah, but did we plan how much gas is going to be if we go? And where are we going to go?
Yeah,
Like,
we
where are
need
we
to
going to
have like
stay?
plans upon
They're
plans.
just like, let's just go, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Which could be fun because it's spontaneous, but at the same time, the emotional is like, well, hold on, we need to like make sure the dogs are left with water and food before we go. They're like, jeez.
Right.
But it's good because we are thinking logically and they're thinking spontaneously. So it balances out because it's like we're gonna do something fun, but at the same time, let's make sure everything's taken care of before we go. So
Yeah, if you look at it in a healthy way, we are balancing each other out and we're making sure everything is getting taken care of. But
mm-hmm.
we tend to take these things very personal when we're in an intimate relationship with somebody. And even if it's not like an intimate relationship, we can even take these things personal, whether it's like a father-daughter,
A friendship
brothers,
too.
like a sibling
Yeah.
or, family dynamic. We take it personal regardless. So and a physical will speak inferentially. So for an emotional, it sounds like they're beating around the bush and we're trying to figure out what the hell they really mean. Right.
Yes.
And so it's a point of frustration for us. Um, but a physical will hear literally. So like when I was saying earlier, we pop off finally because we've been feel backed into a corner, and then we say something we didn't really mean. We just wanted some space. And
Mm-hmm.
then you're like, oh, you think I'm a terrible person. I'm like, well, no, I just wanted you to leave me alone. You want me to leave you alone? Oh, and then there it goes. Like it's a whole nother fight.
Yeah, they
Um,
don't think alone as in give me like 5-10 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes at the most. They think forever.
yeah, like it's the end of the relationship, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh, jeez,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
And then so like a physical will want us to be prettier or more attractive or whatever, because that's
Mhm.
their priorities. Their physical body is important to them,
Yeah.
so they'll want it to be more important to us, and then we'll start to think I'm not. They must think I'm not good enough for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
Right.
not what they said, but we infer it because we hear inferentially and speak literally, and they speak inferentially but hear literally.
Right.
Um, Now, if a physical cheats, and again, just because somebody's physical doesn't mean they will cheat, but if cheating is in their nature and they do cheat, they will
Mm-hmm.
do it to punish their partner because they feel rejected.
Right.
And most likely, not all the time, but most of the time, they will um, do it in a way that it's easy for them to get caught
Yep. Yes.
because they
Yes.
kind of want to get caught so that
Mm-hmm.
it can hurt you because you hurt them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a little vindictive. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but at that point, they feel so wounded and they
Mm-hmm.
feel just abandoned at that point, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then also, but they are more likely to punish their partner. Which is interesting because they'll feel like the emotional is punishing them because of emotional withdrawals, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And because of the withdrawal, which we're just trying to get our thoughts together, for the most part. We're trying to problem solve how we're going to handle it. But because they think that means we're rejecting them, they're reacting to what they imagined instead of what's
Right.
really happening. And then they punish us for what they think.
Yep.
So that's another reason why it's really important to like be able to rein um your thoughts in a little bit. Like, are they actually doing anything to hurt me, or do they just need time to calm down and think about stuff? You know? And when a physical feels like they're rejected, they're gonna come forward. And they in the beginning they'll make their case known to the emotional. They're like, you don't take me out to dinner anymore. You don't do anything spontaneous. You're always working. You don't just kiss me out of the blue. And at first they'll verbalize those things, and we feel like they're verbalizing and protesting, I guess, to get their needs met, is not
Yep.
being uh, listened to or accommodated enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they'll go into punishing mode,
Right.
where the cheating, or um, they might threaten to break up
Yes. Yeah.
because they think, because they're physical, their tendency is to come forward. They think that if they threaten the emotional with a breakup, that the emotional is going to be like, no, 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 and fight for the
Right.
relationship.
And another thing they might do is try and guilt trip you, like, oh, I did
Yeah.
this for you. How come you can't do that for me? You know?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. So if it goes unchecked and it's not balanced, it can actually get very unhealthy.
yes. And it
Is
becomes
kind of where,
toxic.
huh?
And that's when it becomes toxic.
Right. Yeah, and it starts to get into the trauma stage. So let's go to the next one.
Oops.
And I know we kind of really already drove this home already, but a physical's greatest fear is being abandoned.
Yes.
And that is the motivation for a lot of what um, we would consider irrational behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because an emotional tends to be more logical
Mm-hmm.
um, in how they want to approach things, because logical feels safe.
Yeah.
Um, but it does not necessarily make the physical feel safe, because the physical needs the reassurance.
Reassurance. Yep.
Yeah, they need
Constant
to be held
reassurance.
and told that everything's going to be okay. I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. I love you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, that physical touch and the sex is really important to them, because if they're not having sex regularly, then they think that you're getting it somewhere else, because they assume that you also want it. But if you're not getting it from them, then they're going to assume that you're getting it somewhere else. And then there could
Right.
be accusations of cheating and stuff.
Yes.
So I guess the biggest part of this model is to understand that the other person is not you,
Right.
right? Because
And that
like
we
we're all
both have.
raised to like treat people how you want to be treated, and that's a wonderful notion. Yes, we should treat each other with love, honor, and respect, and everything, but we still have different behavior patterns, and we
Mm-hmm.
have different fears. So I can,
Yes.
you know, I know you're also not emotional,
Mm-hmm.
so I understand. Like if you didn't talk to me for a couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably going through some shit.
You're busy. We're
Yeah, or
busy.
you're busy. But, if I was more of a physical, I might think, "Oh, I must have said something wrong. She must not like me
Yeah.
anymore. Maybe she doesn't want to be my friend."
Yeah, but I have that struggle sometimes. But then again, we all possess both traits. So sometimes when like I don't hear from someone for quite a while, I was like, did I say something wrong? You know, so I guess when that's when my 10% kind of goes up on the scale, and when I
Yeah.
kind of reach over to the fizz side
Yeah,
because
you dip your toe
you
in
know,
the fizz pond.
yeah, so I'm like, ooh, did I say something? I haven't heard from them in a while, you know.
Yeah.
Should I text them? Maybe not. That's gonna be
Yeah.
weird. Yeah. So, yeah, but usually with the emotions, like, they're probably busy. They're probably working on a project, or they're going through something. I'll check on them in a couple days if I don't hear from them
Mhm.
by then. But a fizz will probably, take it more like, oh, gee, they must not like me, like you're saying. So, um, but yeah, I mean, everybody fears rejection. Everybody doesn't want to be abandoned, but
Mhm.
we just react and respond in a different way.
Right. But rejection for an emotional is making us feel inadequate. I'm not good enough for you. And
Yes.
then
Yeah.
a rejection for a physical is you're gonna leave me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
okay, let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Okay. And I
Why?
think overall we were kind of dancing around this earlier about why
Mhm.
it starts to break down, and it breaks down because we treat people the way we want to be treated
Yeah, and we've
instead of
been told that.
understanding the other person is different than us and they have different
Right.
behaviors.
Yes, but we have been told that since we were little. I mean, a lot of people grew up hearing that, like, treat
Oh
others
yeah.
how you want to be treated, but that's not the way it works, because then you're treating people how you'd want to be treated, and they may not want to be treated that way. Want to be
Yeah.
treated the opposite way.
Exactly. So being able to see the other person for who they really are is important. Um Instead of just because I think we default to that. We don't do it on purpose. It's just like, okay, like one of the issues that with one of my exes was I asked if it's okay to do stuff, in where they're at. They may have been working on some like crafts or working on some like game stuff or whatever. And I'm like, hey, is it cool if I'm in here with you? Because I know sometimes when I'm working on stuff, I want to be left alone
Mm-hmm.
because the other person may be distracting and might frustrate me or whatever. And my hobbies I like to do by myself. That's me
Mm-hmm.
time. I was
Right.
trying to respect their me time by asking that. But because they were a fizz, they got offended.
Yes.
And then I got yelled at.
Right.
It was like, you
Yeah.
shouldn't even ask that. I'm like, why would I not ask that? I would
Mm-hmm.
want you to ask me,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Because, yeah, like the emotion might think, oh, they're upset. They probably need some space. Because I know I need space when I'm upset.
Yeah.
But in actuality, they want you to be like, it's okay, it's all right, you're going to be all right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then the physical, oh, she's upset. She must want me to touch her. And we're like, no,
Yeah.
not
And
right
then
now.
then we get more mad and we're like, would you please get the fuck off
Yes.
me?
So, that's why we're talking about, like, we treat people how we want to be treated, but in actuality, we need to treat them how they want to be treated, and they need to treat us how we want to be treated. So
Right.
it's not like how we've been told since we were younger, like, well, treat others how you want to be treated, because they don't respond the same way as
Exactly.
how we want to be treated.
Right, right, exactly. So,
So,
um, and the reason why that is because we communicate differently. Like we said, an emotional speaks literally, and a
mhm,
physical speaks inferentially,
right.
and we express our love differently. And I know we are kind of
Mhm,
hit that a couple times, but for if we were going to use the five love languages as an example, for an emotional, it would be acts of service and
yes,
quality time.
right.
And for a physical, it would be physical touch and
Mhm.
maybe also quality time. I don't remember what the one in the middle, what the other one is, but
Wasn't it compliments or
oh yeah, yeah, compliments. Um, So yeah, so that would be more appropriate for them. So as an
Right.
emotional, it might feel weird to you just to be like, "Hey, you look beautiful today," especially, if like they just woke up, they have bedhead and they look like a mountain troll.
Yes. You look so adorable.
Because it's hard for us to say something that's not true. So we're like, "You look beautiful." And then you feel like we were insincere, and then that's a whole nother argument. So
Yeah.
sometimes we choose not to say anything at all, and then we also get in trouble for that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and there's other things too that you know, in the equation, like certain things you said or done that can interfere with your relationship. So it's not just based primarily on this, because, like, if you did cheat on someone,
Yeah.
they're not going to treat you the same way.
Yeah,
If you
that's
said
that's
something
a hard one to
hurtful,
repair once it happens because that's trust.
right? So this is just a really good foundation to
Yeah.
really start with, but like there's going to be a lot of changes if there's trauma in the relationship. Like, it's going to the whole relationship's going to flip, you know.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so that's why it breaks down.
Mhm.
um so
So let's go to the next one.
all right, so the next one, basically,
These
here's
are our
this.
examples of some extremes.
Yes, these are
After the
very
last couple
extreme.
of weeks, I really debated on maybe changing it to Will and Jada, but I think we're all kind of Will and Jaded out at this point.
I think both couples are technically kind of extreme, and they
They
both
are.
kind of, I mean, these are public figures or celebrities. They're both couples are incongruent. They both couples seem like they may have I don't doesn't Jada have some mental illnesses going on too, right? I think
I
she's
don't know,
I don't know.
but
I'm not going to say
so
that
there
because I'm not
is.
sure, but I know that Kanye West is dealing with some mental
Yeah,
illness,
he's dealing with bipolar disorder. Um,
right? Which can contribute to, you know,
yeah,
his behavior. So, um, but yes, these are two extreme couples right here.
yeah.
Um,
And
but
and as a little disclaimer, with them being celebrities, I know that we said an emotional is more introverted, and you can look at Kim Kardashian and look at her show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and
mm,
her public persona and the clothes that she wears, and think that she's not introverted at all.
right,
But
but that's
understand
yeah,
that we will show up when it's business,
mm-hmm,
you know
yeah,
um we will, be best dressed for work, and we will show up and we will show out for work because our work is what really, honestly, if we're fair, it's what we're the most successful at.
yes,
So we're
yeah.
like,
So
I'm
it's like
good at
that's her
this.
money maker. That's her money maker. It's her looks. So therefore,
Yes.
that's her business. Is her
And
looks.
her mom and her family, they all have groomed the kids that
Yes.
their their persona, their you know, their presence and everything, it's a package. And
Hmm.
they've been groomed for a very young age because they grew up in Hollywood,
Right.
that they are a commodity. So she does handle things a little bit differently than a normal emotional will.
Yes.
Um, but for her, everything is always business.
Hmm.
And um, I think we broke down some of the behaviors before, but and even though, like we were talking about, a single physical can be highly successful, you know, but once they get into a relationship, the relationship becomes the higher priority to them.
Yeah. And I would
So,
also like to address too is Kim is constantly stating that her number one priority is her children. And I know, like, in the orders of the phys and the emotionals, we said, the physicals, it's up there more than the emotionals. But because she's an emotional, it's not meaning like her kids are not important, but her acts of service, being this successful businesswoman, that's how she is being the best mother she could be, because she wants to provide. And that's what she said. She's like, I want to provide for my children. I want to make them happy. I want to give them what they
Right.
need.
And if I remember correctly, I think they did they copyright their names or something? The kids' names?
Oh, I don't know.
Because they were setting their kids up also to market themselves, like grooming them the way that their family groomed them, is preparing them to be a commodity and
I
a
don't know.
public persona, and that's one of the reasons why Kanye doesn't want the kids on social
On
media.
TikTok. Yeah, I know they were
Yeah,
making a
that
big
whole thing.
deal about that. Yeah, yeah, she was allowing her daughter, I believe it was, to go on TikTok, but she was being monitored by Kim, and Kanye was not happy with that. But like, again, this is a very extreme case, because there's some things that he was doing that was not making sense.
Yeah, he
As
was over
in,
the top in a different direction.
yeah,
um,
he was being very I mean, the evidence is there, and even, you could read about it, how he was doing a lot of things out of spite, out of anger, because of the rejection.
yeah, which
You know.
we'll do some of that on these slides. Did you want to go to the slides first so we could
Sure.
touch on those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, like, okay, just real fast for Kim's behavior, right? That
Mm-hmm.
again, her first priority is her public image and work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and an emotional is more likely to mentally check out of a relationship before they physically leave, because they don't really want to be the bad guy and break up with you, but
Yeah.
they feel like they've been pushed away at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not, you have all these demands on me, that I'm supposed to be more this and more that, and I need to give you more this and give you more that, but my needs aren't getting met, where I'm
Right.
not mentally or emotionally stimulated by you anymore. I just am constantly being told that I'm not good enough in one
Right.
way or another.
Yeah. Considering he goes into her closet and takes all of her shoes and clothes and tosses them out, because he straight up tells her, like, your style sucks. Let
Right.
me,
And yeah, she was a fashion icon
reorganize
before they
you.
started dating. So
Right. Yeah. This is
that's just his
before.
opinion.
I think it was I don't know. You can quote me if I'm, or correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the first week they started actually dating, and he came into her closet, and he reorganized by throwing everything out, her shoes, clothes, whatever, and he replaced it, though. I mean, but still, it's like telling someone, you look like shit. Let me vamp you up, because you're just, you're not good enough for me.
Yeah,
So,
because it basically feels like, okay, well, you don't really like who I am. You want
right.
me to be somebody else that I'm not.
Yeah, almost like creating a trophy wife type of an ordeal, in a sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
that's
that
how
also
I
makes
would
us
put it.
feel mentally and emotionally alone in the relationship, because we're like, you don't
Yeah.
really want me. You want me to be who you want,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, so okay. So as far as the mentally and emotionally kind of checking out of the relationship first, she was talking to Kanye West while she was still dating Chris Humphries.
Oh, she was, and
Yeah.
especially when they were married as well. That was a big ordeal, I
Yeah,
guess.
and she said in an interview that being married to Chris is what made her realize she had feelings for Kanye, and thus the divorce 72 days later. And why she started dating Kanye immediately afterwards. So they were, even though she wasn't completely done with her divorce, and she was seen going on dates with him and hiding her wedding ring.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and then in the marriage, she had two kids with him. Um, and the second one was really difficult for her to get pregnant. She had preeclampsia with both of the kids, so she didn't really want to have, because her body is a moneymaker for her. It's part of her public image. She doesn't want to have the the physical consequences of the labor, because she's had preeclampsia twice, which is pregnancy induced hypertension. It creates swelling, and like
Mhm.
her, you can't wear those pretty shoes anymore because now you have like giant feet.
Right.
you know, um, so the physical consequences of carrying the kids to term was too much for her physically. It at least
Yeah.
it would affect her public image. It was not negotiable for her. So,
Yeah.
um, but she also fell into this people pleasing, um, where like even though she was crying when he was throwing out her shoes, she didn't stop him and she didn't kick him out of the house.
No.
Like
No. No.
250 pairs of shoes, and knowing how expensive all of her stuff is,
Yeah.
you know, that was a
Even though she
ridiculous
does
amount of
have the
money
money
that
to
he just
replace it,
threw
but
away.
yeah.
He probably, who knows? I don't even know if he donated it. I mean,
I hope
hopefully,
he did. I hope he did, but
I
yeah.
hope so. But that was, for us, we would see that as very disrespectful.
Oh,
And for
well, yeah.
physical, they may think it was very loving because they bought you all new stuff.
Yeah. Well,
But
we grew up differently too, but regardless, I'm sure she liked those shoes and those clothes and that she picked them for a reason. So, but
right,
he
right,
didn't
right.
like it,
Yeah, but he liked her enough to get with her in the first place.
Right. It's
So
very
why bash her now
odd.
and
Yeah.
tell her that she's not enough? Anyway,
Right.
that's just we're two emos venting. Sorry.
Yeah, I
Okay,
know. Sorry,
so
we're analyzing.
but
Analyzing.
yeah, and then he was not medicated for his bipolar. He was not going to counseling or therapy, and he was hospitalized.
Right. Yes.
And because he was a little bit off the charts at the moment, he was being kind of weird.
Yeah.
And she said she was going to stand by her husband, and he promised that he was going to stay on top of his treatment.
Well, yeah,
Which
but
I do not believe that he actually did. I could be wrong.
according to reports, he's not taking medication, but that's their say. I don't know what he's doing on a personal level, but because he's like nobody's going to tell me what to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
And that's
supposedly
hard with people who are bipolar.
yeah.
It does seem that proportionately there's more celebrities that tend to be bipolar just because you can get a lot of work done when you're manic and you can push yourself for a really long time. So there is a lot of celebrities who are struggling with bipolar. Um,
Yeah.
and for all the people that have it, we know it's tough. Like, we're not trying to make light of it or say that you're not good people, because you are, and you're struggling with something that's very, very difficult to
Mm-hmm.
struggle with. But even more reason to, love and honor yourself by
Mm-hmm.
doing, taking care of yourself, and make sure you stay on top of your therapies. If a particular medicine isn't working for you, talk to your doctors, get on the right one that
Right.
does work for you, because your quality of life is important.
Yeah. And you got to think too how challenging it is for people who are in the limelight dealing with,
Yeah.
these disorders. And, everything you say is put on social media. And that's got to be hard and triggering within itself.
Mm-hmm.
But, Kim, I don't know if that's, I mean, supposedly in her divorce records, that's kind of why she was leaning towards divorce, because he was saying outlandish things about the family and kind of speaking how would you say, like he wasn't making sense a lot, and
Yeah, I think it was more irrational.
very
Irrational,
irrational.
because he's
Yes.
already upset, and he's not going to therapy. He's not
Oh, that's what
taking
was
care.
before. Yeah, but I think this is what led her to wanting to get divorced, because it was saying in her divorce creed, like, the reasons why is because he was starting to speak about, he was like saying things about, remember like her wanting to abort, and he was talking about, other things about her family and, things she didn't want to publicize, and, saying some irrational things like running for president and, some other things that I won't bring up. But,
Yeah, well, yeah, it's that kind of spontaneity, right? Now,
yeah.
he wasn't a celebrity and he didn't have bipolar, his spontaneity would not be so severe.
Well,
You know
that's
what I
her
mean?
business. Her business is,
Being affected by the crazy shit
right.
that he's
So,
doing, the
she's like,
behaviors
no,
that are crazy.
I can't stay with this dude anymore. But
Oh,
anyway,
sorry.
I digress. But
Yeah, no, it's
but
okay. So,
that's pretty
but
much.
again, back to this particular behavior pattern of an emotional being um being done mentally and emotionally with the relationship already, even though the other person isn't or it's not legally wrapped up yet. So
Hmm. Hmm.
you can have where you see that she started dating Pete Davidson in November of last year, and it wasn't until February, like the very last week of February,
Oh, I can't hear you.
her divorce was actually finalized with Kanye.
Actually, I think I just found out yesterday. I don't even think their divorce is finalized yet. She
I
got
just
a
read an article that said it was the last Wednesday in February.
really, because yesterday I was researching it and it was saying that she filed for a, oh gosh, what was it called? Fiduciary? I don't remember what it's called.
Fiduciary.
But no, not a fiduciary. It was by BI. I can't remember. But anyway, so basically it's for her to become single. She could get her last name again because he would not, for the life of him, he would not sign the divorce papers. But they did finalize it, but I think it was in March. But
I
regardless,
wonder if the
um,
additional problems were because they got married in Italy.
no, it was just he was very adamant about she can't get remarried and all this stuff, and very rational, um, demands that he was bringing to the court,
Hmm.
and he just really did not want her to file for divorce, and he really didn't want to get divorced
Yeah,
to
he
her.
didn't want her to move on.
No, no, because she was ready to just move on. She's like, I'm done.
Yeah,
All right.
but even he was sending, even just earlier in February, he sent her that truck full of roses.
Right.
And then when he bought his new house, it was like across the
Oh
street.
yeah. Yeah.
You
Weird.
know,
Yeah, right across the street. God, thank God my ex doesn't.
yeah,
That
you
would be
just think
horrible.
about how intimidating that is for an emotional.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
know that they're talking about mansions and it's not like a normal house right across the street, but it's still
Yeah.
a little close for comfort, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Like
yeah.
can't we just be in the same town even? Can't
Yeah.
that be enough?
Well, he's got a lot of it's evident that it's a lot of harassment going on. I mean, he's
Yeah.
constantly, but
And
it's
that's part
because
of the
rejection.
yeah,
you know.
it's the impulsivity at feeling rejected because, you know, it got out that she was seeing Pete Davidson. And then so he felt because, she's a public figure that um she's rubbing it in his face
Well, technically,
or
Pete
she's doing
is,
it to
which
spite
is
him.
horrible. Oh, well,
What?
Pete, I said Pete is rubbing it in Kanye's face because, and which is crazy to me because Pete Davidson also deals with, I don't know if it's bipolar, but he does have mental health issues as well. And Kanye, evidently, I guess, texted Pete, and he's like, it was kind of starting off like passive aggressive, and Kanye was like, "Where are you?" And he's like, he sends a selfie of him in their bed, and he's like, "I'm in bed with your wife," But then, right, and I'm like, "Well, why would you then?" That's awful. If
Is
any
it though?
situation,
Because I feel like everybody has a limit, and he's been going and going and going. And
yeah,
I feel like for the most part, Pete Davidson had been trying to be minding his manners and being on his
uh,
best behavior about all of this stuff. And then, we're human.
I
And
don't
then we
know. To
all
me,
have an end where, like, eventually we're going to clap back.
he could have addressed it a different. That was to me just immature. That's like one of those, your mama kind of like, I was with your wife
I'm not
last night.
saying it's immature.
You
I'm
know,
just saying people are human and that we have a moment of weakness where
yeah.
eventually we're
Well,
just going to snap and we're going to
well,
say what
then
we
he
have to say.
goes after he says, "Oh, I'm in bed with your wife," and sends a selfie. Then he's like, "Man, I totally get it. I'm dealing with mental health issues too. If you want to talk or if you need help, get on the right meds, and I'm here. I'll listen to you. I hope." It's like, yeah, like this dude's gonna come to you after you tell him, "Oh, I'm in bed with your wife." It's like kind of a contradicting there, but anyway,
Yeah, I
um,
know, but
but
I'm
it's
not
like it
saying
kind
it
of
was
made me
right,
think.
but I do
Yeah,
understand that after a while, you're going to clap back.
he did, yeah, but
Because
I
we
don't
all have a
know.
moment of weakness, and he admitted that he's also struggling with some mental health issues and stuff. So maybe
Yeah,
his threshold for being bullied is not very high.
probably not. I don't know. I
Because
just
this
think,
is actually like legally it could be harassment, the kind of stuff that
oh
Kanye
yeah,
has been doing.
oh yeah,
So
he's on a whole different level, man. But do you want to go on, or do you want to save the next
yeah, let's go to the
slides
next slide.
for next time? Okay, so you want to keep going?
Okay. And then okay,
Kanye's
so
behaviors.
Kanye again being the physical and Kim being the emotional is when that type of behavior where you want your spouse or partner to be more attractive and to look the way you want them to look, um, things like that. That's where the throwing away 250 pairs of her shoes while she was crying about it and saying that
Right.
she didn't have style. One that was it was rude, honestly, but it was
Yeah.
also just a very extreme version of what might happen. But if it's in a normal relationship, it might be that the person wants you. It could be like you're too skinny, you need to gain weight, or you're too big, you need to lose some weight. Have you ever thought about cutting your hair? Like trying to change
Mhm.
your physical appearance to be more of what they think you should look like. Um,
Right.
and it's not that they mean it to be disrespectful. They're trying to help because that's where their priorities are on the physical body and um and sex and the physical relationship. But for an emotional whose priorities are business, um, and then we would take that as being you telling me that I'm not good enough for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And then some other overt displays of because a physical is more extroverted and they're more likely to be have like grandiose displays of affection and like they might rent out a concert hall
Mm-hmm.
or they might rent out something, and he had rented the entire stadium screen to propose for her at the San Francisco Giants ballpark.
Yes. Yes. Kind of like we were saying when we found that out. How she it probably felt for her, I don't know, maybe we're wrong, but I know for us, we probably feel like we're backed into a corner being surrounded by
Yeah,
all these
to me,
people.
just reading that feels like entrapment. Like I
Yes,
have
it's
to
like,
say yes so that I could go home safely.
yeah, yeah, and you're in the public eye and you're public figures, and it's like how
Yeah.
embarrassing this person proposing to you, and you going, no, I don't want to accept your
Right.
proposal.
And you know that this person, if you tell them no, that the way that they handle rejection is to pop off.
Right. Yeah.
So you're like,
So,
me saying no to this person in public is not safe for me.
yeah. Yeah.
And it could affect my career in a bad way. So, and then,
Mm-hmm.
she, like I said, her body is, a big part of her public image. And, so being pressed for a second pregnancy, and this sounds like a very much emotional thing to say is, that they were having sex like 500 times a day. which obviously is a gross exaggeration because no guy could keep up even if he was physical.
Oh my God. I mean, I hope not. My goodness. I can only imagine how
Yeah, but
painful that would be.
I think what the how many ever times the maximum amount that somebody could do without injuring themselves is
Yeah.
nowhere near
Yeah.
500 times a day. So it's obviously an exaggeration, but
Yes.
it
Of
sounds like
course.
an email complaint. Oh my God,
Yeah.
it's like 500 times a day. He just won't leave me alone, you know?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and then he expressed that in his interview with E that his attraction to Kim was like this magnetic attraction, like a force of energy that's around her.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, emotionals don't feel that way about people.
Mm-hmm.
We get in relationships because they make sense.
Yeah.
And for a physical, they tend to put the other person on a pedestal and like
Mm-hmm.
romanticize the person. Um, I told you about one person, he had romanticized this image
Yes.
of
Yes.
what his perfect partner was. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then so finally, when he got somebody that met that criteria, he basically, he looked at her like she was, um,
Like a goddess or
yeah, like a
yeah.
goddess almost. Like he worshipped her, and
Which is nice, but you
yeah,
know,
but it's a lot to keep up with.
yeah.
And then it also makes you feel like the person doesn't really love you. They love you, this imaginary version of you that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also a problem. Um, but then he will get really upset because by him being so over the top about his like wanting
Right.
to worship her, like rub her feet and this other stuff, and she's like, the low ego sensations. We don't touch my feet. My feet are gross. You know,
Yeah.
like well, don't do that. That's weirds me out. He was like, but I want to worship you, and we're like, ew, why?
Yeah. Well,
you know,
yeah.
and
And
then
that's
so
a
like he was so over the top trying to love her and that it was
mm-hmm.
actually pushing her away. And if he had just was able, and he dialed it back and stuff, and everything was great. But and everything is great now. But before then, it was very dysregulated because it was just too intense for her.
Right. Well, it's a very high expectation to be looked at as,
Yeah,
the goddess and being put on a pedestal and
yeah.
it can
Because
be
how can you live up
overwhelming,
to that?
a little too intense.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then also too, if you think about the person's history, if they've ever had any abuse in a relationship and they're emotional, they may not ever want to get married again. You know,
Right. Yeah.
And then so like if a physical is like, I want to marry you, and then we feel like that means you're gonna own me.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't want to be owned. I'm not a thing.
Right.
But to them, they
Especially,
want to put for the physical, they want to be owned.
right. Yeah.
So they
And
can
it's
really
like,
push for like
mm,
this next level of commitment. And we're like, can't we just take it day by day? And that freaks them out. And then they push harder, and then it freaks us out.
right.
Where
And
we
then we
could
shut
just,
down.
like could just accept each other and enjoy what you have instead of
Yeah. Being in the
um
present,
yeah,
enjoying
if
each
you're
other.
present in the moment and you're respecting each other and everything, and you're actually hearing what the other person is saying to you, then
Mm-hmm.
a lot of this stuff isn't going to get so bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything else after this, is there?
No, I don't think so. It's it says let's talk.
Okay, well, we've been talking for 2 hours. So
We have hours
so
and
I
15.
guess what we could do is just like leave it open for if people want to message us, because I know it's a little late. We're probably not going to keep going, but people
Right.
could maybe add
Yeah, leave
comments.
comments down below. This will be
Yeah.
on YouTube as well, right? So,
Yeah, we're going to put this on
um,
YouTube so they
yeah.
can comment, and if it's actually related to a relationship and it's not something like you guys suck, or like I hate redheads, just stuff like that, we're not going to acknowledge you. But if it's actually something to do with about relationships and um something that we can address within this
Hmm.
model where we can help you, we'll answer those.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's keep it respectful and problem solving. And
Yeah.
if you guys are interested in one-on-one sessions with us. We do hold sessions over Zoom.
Yep.
And we can book sessions, and we can do hypnotherapy, and we can explain the E&P strategies with you better and kind of walk you through it so that you can use it to have a positive effect on your relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So comment down below if you have any questions, or if you want to make any suggestions about what we talked about tonight, or if you have any suggestions on what we should talk about next week. So
Yeah.
Subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you next week.